Good afternoon. How are we doing today?
Good afternoon. All is good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I trust that you all had a productive week and you had the opportunity to read and you came prepared to have a provocative discussion today. Is that right?
Yes.
I can hear the excitement. I can hear the excitement. Okay, guys, so welcome. I trust that some of you had the opportunity to read the paper, and some of, or one or two of those case studies from the Egman group. So we'll start. I know it's just a few of us here now, but let's start with the newspaper. Anybody read the newspaper today or this week?
I did
Okay,
a
so what's
little of
happening
it.
in the news?
I what what I read about was how one of the commercial banks um anyway uh, one okay the anyway it's in regards of to the business license regime. Um, how the commercial bank was questioned the government in plans of reimposing business license fees on the sector, um, and how it could, or if it could have been revived, and if it could revive a situation where it cost the Bahamas in 2018 blacklisting by EU.
Because of business license fees?
It was saying how it is if whether if it was a situation that costs, if that was one of if that could have been a cause of, I guess, us being blacklisted in 2018.
No, and when we were blacklisted in 2018, in the same chapter that we're talking about today, taxes is the reason why we were blacklisted. And there was a due date for us to sign T's with our automatic tax exchange laws with various countries. So we had to sign a T with Switzerland and with Germany and with all the EU countries, and then with Panama and what have you. And so we had a deadline where we had to sign those agreements. And we met that deadline and we sent our information on to the OECD office. And they said that they have two groups. There's a technical group that receives information, and then there's a group that makes the decision to blacklist. And apparently, our information had reached the technical group, and the technical group did not relay it to the blacklisting group, and hence we were blacklisted mistakenly. And so
Okay,
we
and
suffered reputational risks from that.
okay, so with there was a part in there where anyway, what his name is, Govon Bo. I don't know if you
Gorvin
know.
Bo,
Yeah,
Gorvin Bo, the managing director of Fidelity.
Fidelity, right? Um, where he had mentioned we had been blacklisted for harmful tax practices.
Right. So what happened that first of all, that was the first mistake by the OECD. And that's when Peter Turnquest had lashed out at them and said, no matter what we do, you're gonna find a way to blacklist us because we are the competition. And I don't know if you remember, and so we talked about when you don't have a seat at the table, other countries overlook you. And so Carl Bessel is now the Attorney General. I mean, sorry, the chairman. He was the past Attorney General, and he is now the chairman of the CFATF. And so definitely we have representation now, and before they make a mistake, and blacklist us, then, he'll be there. Now, after that, that was 218. In 219, we have updated our penal code to include tax laws. However, we were known as a tax jurisdiction. So I don't know if they made a mistake. I don't think they made a mistake, or they were trying to use a staggered approach so that the Bahamas could get all of the persons who, did not disclose to their country out of the system, and before they put it into law. And so I don't know if I told you all the story where I had a client who my bank was closing down, and he had $10 million with us, and the IRS said 6 million for them, and he got 4 million. And I mean, he cried. Okay. And so we had updated the law in 219. However, it had said we could prosecute you if you evade like customs tax and VAT, and so the OECD was sending in, the FATF was coming in 2021, I think, to work with the Financial Intelligence Unit, and at the same time, they were going to check our tax laws to make sure that they were not loopholes. No loopholes were in the law. And so in 2020, we updated the law to completely say, no matter which jurisdiction you were from, if you evaded taxes, you would be prosecuted.
Okay. One more thing. Indira, she's saying she can't hear anything. I don't know.
Is anybody else having a problem hearing? Okay, so Daniqua, can you hear me? Jamal, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so there must be something on her end. Okay, I'll tell her to sign out and sign back in.
Okay, I'll let her know.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so as far as all the tax laws, in terms of reporting to various jurisdictions, we are up to date. However, because the FATF could not make it in to work with the FIU in May of 2020, the EU had blacklisted us again. But by that December, we had our law fully updated, and so we came off that blacklist.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, and very relevant because chapter 2 is all about taxes. So we'll learn about these tax laws and what they mean for the Bahamas. So very timely article that you would have read.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Anybody else wants to share? No, nobody else read the newspaper all the class. Nobody. And y'all had all morning with yours doing your Saturday chores. Nobody went online. Y'all talk back to me. What's happening?
Miss Paulette.
Yes.
Yes, I read the newspaper.
Okay, okay.
But my point is, I want to get on LinkedIn page now. I am trying to figure out why did he behave like that, and why the police handling him like that. I mean, yeah, the Haitians them doing whatever they gotta do, right? But I think he had to open fire.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Make threats of death. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't do that. I mean, if I was him, I'd be scared because you don't have strong Haitian.
Right.
You don't do that.
No, but I think he was more upset about the fact that the Haitian people off of the crown land, innocent persons selling like vegetables and stuff, more for the people, and the fact that the Haitian people was more available to stay, not available, was more permitted to stay there, and then that was kind of, frustrating for persons who were just there for positive reasons, just to make a couple dollars and stuff. And then too, I think, well, we all who watched the video saw that it seems as if something was being hidden away from the Bahamian people. So that was probably one of the main reasons why it was okay for the Haitian people to stay there and the Bahamian people had to leave, you know.
Yeah.
But we
So
have to fix that. We have to fix that before we have a war, because Bahamians are not going to sit back here and we pay taxes on these properties. And
exactly.
these Haitians come in here and
No, I mean it's not a
squatting
racist thing,
and
but it's just that if you could do it for them, why not do it for the Bahamian people who
right.
live
So
on here?
Thank you.
At the
Yep.
end of the day, wrong is wrong and right is right.
it's
Right.
right.
Everybody else on this land have to pay the property tax and pay whatever they're supposed to
Exactly.
pay. So those who come, they need to do it the right way. That's all. It
Exactly.
ain't about
So
where
that's
you from. It's about what is the law of the land. That's
exactly.
Exactly.
all it is.
And then
Right.
too,
Okay.
I don't think he even though he fired shots, I don't think he did it to say. I don't think he was trying to
Disrespect nobody. Right.
let some
Right.
let but that okay, it's not we are more serious than we ever were. You know, we're taking matters further, but you know, I don't think he meant to say harm anybody, just wanted them to know that okay, we serious this time, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
just
but
went about it the wrong way. He just,
yeah, it did was wrong because it's
yeah,
a
he shouldn't
threat.
go about it that way.
Yeah, it is a threat, and
Yeah.
you're supposed to be. You want to be the prime minister of a country that we have had a illegal immigrant problem for so long, and not only Haitians, all
No, but
immigrants.
not only that,
We've had a problem for so
right?
long. Nobody has been able to fix that problem.
Yeah,
Okay, and so now you don't know who is who. You know, everybody's half Bahamian now. We almost like America, and so
Yeah, because the children them gonna be in half Asian, grandchildren them could be
right,
half
right,
Haitian, be in
right,
half Cuban, all kind of
right,
things over here, all kind of
right.
nations over here.
Right, right. And but the quickest way to go to jail in the Bahamas is to, you know, a small crime, a traffic ticket, don't pay your loan, all these things, they prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. You could
Yeah.
murder, you be out on bail tomorrow.
And you're on
Exactly.
bail.
So
Ah,
police, or I have never seen anything like this in my life.
I
The
swear.
smaller the
Right?
crime, the swifter the penalty, and the more
That's
severe.
serious.
but
Okay,
to be
that's
honest,
the
right?
culture of the Bahamas,
And
so that's why
I
they handling that way.
Miss Bullet is the
I
God
would
truth.
think
The police,
that
the police is moved for 3 reasons. They're gonna move when there's guns involved, drugs involved, and domestic violence. That's the only thing. The three things would have turned them on. Nothing else. You could
Yeah.
call. You heard what that woman said. They call that same police station for another model. The police car has yet
To
reached
come.
the
Yep.
scene. Complaint where the complaint is being alleged.
But let them give you a ticket for illegal parking. They on the scene right away. And
Exactly.
they prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. You
Exactly.
commit murder, you are on bail. You on your third murder, and you have bail. So I
Exactly. And
don't
put
I
on
think
your
the
ankle
truth is,
bracelet so they can monitor you and sign into Central or sign into
know.
Road
Right,
Station
right. They
before
great at
5
that.
Friday.
They good at any type of crime that requires administration. They great at it. But anyway, very, very, very good topic, guys. And we are this chapter talks about taxes, and I've had this conversation before. I don't know if some of you were in the intro class, but I said let's look at Canada, and I think we may have said this last week. Let's look at Canada. Canada is calling for persons to come, okay? Because in order to, most countries don't have enough citizens to survive economically. And so Canada is calling because you need more citizens to help, cover your debt. And but our problem is, it's not organized. If you go to America, if you go to Canada, between 13 to 35% is what you pay in taxes. Only in the Bahamas we don't have any tax structures that are proper, that don't collect from anybody. We just recently got back, and so we have spent the money trying to buy boats for the defense force to protect these waters, and we see how effective that is.
And nations them coming in by the
They coming
billion.
in left, right, every day. As soon as you send them back, they back on the flight in the morning, or they on a boat, And so
Yep.
for years we've done the same thing, and we copy a lot of stuff. So we should have been able to copy from Canada by now and say, what are they doing? How can they call for immigrants and we can't? We can't protect our borders and we're not calling for immigrants. So we, at this point now, should have said, okay, we are going to call for immigrants. We are going to let them in. What are we going to do? We are going to tax them. Once they come in, verify them, not allow them. We need to protect the land. No shanty towns, no illegal electricity, no illegal water. Make them pay rent, go into apartments. If you can't pay rent, then you cannot come. Right? And so if they fix the immigration system, then we won't be in the, problems and have such a high deficit. But the only way countries make money is from natural resources that we practically give away and from taxes. So tax them is enough for them to tax them, even if they say, if you're a Bahamian, you pay a lesser tax or what have you, and foreigners pay more, still tax them. This work permit thing does not work. You were supposed to come in, the expats, they come in for 3 years. They're supposed to train the Bahamians. That never happens. Okay, never happens. These expats stay here for 20 and 30 years. In Cayman, there's a limit. You stay for 7 years if you're an expat, and that is it. And Cayman needs expats because their workforce is 30. They have 60,000 people and 30,000 are expats, and they still turn them over. In the Bahamas, you stay for 30 years, and we happy with just collecting your work permit fee from you. Okay, so the tax system has to fix, and then we wouldn't have a deficit, and then we also could eliminate this. Stop buying them, ships them the defense force. People don't know how to drive. Okay, and invest. I'm sorry if anybody on the defense force. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Think about it. Each country need citizens to help them with their, like I say, their economic base, and so there's through taxes. But no, we let them come in. We can't control them, and nobody being taxed. So that's what the problem is. Okay. All right, guys. Anybody else read and wants to share? No? Okay, y'all. Even though this is 10 weeks, please don't let the 10 weeks run up on you and persons automatically think, oh, it's 10 weeks. We have a long time. This goes by pretty fast, pretty swiftly. And a lot of persons in my last class just got left behind and was stumbling in that exam. Okay, so make sure you don't let the time run out on you. Okay? Yes.
One thing that I read about, it wasn't today, but what I thought was very interesting was the VAT that is going to be refunded to first home purchasers.
You said VAT is going to be
the VAT or a real property tax. What? Come on now. That's what you saying? The VAT or a real property tax.
It said VAT refund.
VAT?
That's what it said.
What?
Let me look it up. Hold on.
Yeah, because the budget has been going on the whole week. So yeah, person should be paying attention to the budget debate and making sure it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? And like somebody said, if we are going to, but there are a lot of reduction on the duties that was promised initially when VAT started. But now we're just seeing mass reduction. So they're saying if we're in a deficit, we just suffered a pandemic. Where's the money gonna come from to make up all these reductions? And somebody said from VAT. Okay, and they said, so that means VAT is gonna increase. Of course it's going to, even without those reductions.
So it said, for those who are constructing or renovating their first home, we also are refunding up to $40,000 in cash for any VAT paid for construction services or materials purchased once the occupancy certificate is provided within 18 months.
Okay. Very good.
Well, let me told myself just now.
The government can give you back money.
Yeah, up to $40,000. I think that's a good thing especially for first home buyers.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it is a good incentive.
Yeah.
If the government will give you back money?
If that's what she's saying in the newspaper, then I find that hard to believe, but if that's what she's saying in the paper, then that's what in the paper.
It was in the paper.
I need to send that to the whole class because you got me lost now.
You pull it up.
Make sure print that and post like
print that so I can see that chart.
Okay, listen, they gave out duty-free cards, right? And I had to fill out, they said, if you have a business, whatever your business is in, they give you a duty-free card. So I have a duty-free card. And every time I bring in something, I have to write a letter to the Ministry of Finance. They have to look through all the stuff and make sure it's relevant to my business. And then they be arguing with me and telling me this is not for fishing. I say I bought it from the fishing store. It's for the boat. You know what I mean? And so, and it is frustrate you all. And so, yes, I'm sitting up in custom for 2 weeks. Okay, so they say these things, but in actuality, you just get frustrated going through this process, and you go in and pay sometimes because the process is so long and back and forth. You go down the Ministry of Finance, nobody answers the phone. It's crazy. So I'd like to see that happen. First of all, nobody could even tell me where to go. So yeah, print that one out. You can read that.
Tell me about
Print,
that.
print
I
that
just
out.
sent it. I sent it in the group just now.
Okay, okay. And all these things, but they promising they have to be put in law. So let's see if they can pass through the various bills or whatever if this budget can pass without all these things being changed. It sounds good, but a lot of things that they say don't happen. So like I say, that's why we need lobbyists. We need people to remind them of what they said, you know, and fact check them.
Well, I know one thing. If it was my first home, I was looking for my money back.
Okay. Okay.
And see, they bagging on you not finding them receipts.
Exactly.
Because if you are currently purchasing your stuff and you would be now making sure that you have all of your receipts.
Yes.
To make sure that everything is, you know, so you could claim. But they
and you can get that money 10 years from now.
Sure.
Better late than never. Once you get it.
Boy, I ain't got that kind of patience to wait that long.
Yeah, but I mean, you would have gotten anything in the beginning, right? So
That's
now
true.
they offer you an incentive. You was going to purchase your home regardless if you was getting something back or not.
That's true.
So if you get $40,000 when your home is done, almost halfway paid for, you could take that and put it on your mortgage, or you could have something to do something else. You know, $40,000.
Okay,
That's a lot of
I
money.
get that. The thing is,
there
hoping
was
that
gonna be VAT was gonna be waived for 1 year.
that they're gonna do
Right?
it.
Look what happened with that.
That's the
I would
40,000 thing about it
linger
now.
on until the next government
relook.
comes out, and then it'll be a different story.
Think
Yeah,
about
because VAT was
40,000
supposed
now.
to be waived for 1 year. Now VAT reduced to 10% and back on the breadbasket items. Are people benefiting?
No, if tenants right now decide to build our first home right now, you honestly think the government can pay all us that money? Honestly?
But like I say, regardless, you would have purchased your home. If you was billing, you can continue to bill.
That's
Whether
the
you get the
dad
money back or not.
That's the dad was weekend, man. Think y'all and your churn won't even exceed that $40,000. Let's move on.
You're next. Hey.
No, but
Let's move
Let's
on
be
to something
positive.
else.
Let's be
That's the
positive and hopeful. Positive and hopeful.
oh boy.
But follow that
That's the
through.
one.
So anybody who bill in, please follow that through and make sure you get your refund. Okay? Okay. Very good. Shanda, you read?
Hi, Ms. Bullet. I was at Toastmasters. I mean, I read the newspaper, but it's a lot of different things. I was just wondering if Toastmasters can be shared today or.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So on Tuesday evening, I would have visited on Zoom Healing Communicators Toastmasters Club 7178. And their topic was Remember When, and it was a really good session. Their speaker was Anishka Colley. She's a CPA, and her presentation was more on saving and budgeting, and she gave tips on saving and, you know, you budget for an emergency fund, manage debt, save for goals, save for retirement. Also, the word of the day, it was very interesting, impecunious,
Yes,
which
that's
meant having
bankrupt.
little or no money. And
broke.
that was a good time to remember when the price of fuel was less. So, it was a good session overall.
Okay,
That's my 5 cents.
right. Okay, good. I'm glad you found it beneficial. Do you plan to return?
Yes, I'll do it next week. It was a really good session, very informative.
Okay, good, good. I'm glad
Miss
you found it
Paulette,
beneficial.
Miss Paulette,
Yes.
I also attended that meeting as well. And
Okay.
what my dear friend, just two little pointers she forgot. Um, the game we played, and then they had a raffle going on as well. So they gave you a count number. They had like a special 5 for 7 for 5, and it's all kind of thing because it was at the Cancer Society, and of course they have to pay for the building. They're not just gonna have them in the Cancer Society building on free every Tuesday night. So they were raising funds via a raffle.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, but it was
Very
a
good.
very exciting and interesting meeting. The tips,
Okay, so give us one tip so we don't be broke.
was like she was trying to encourage people to save. If you want to save like $1,000, first of all, you have to do a budget, and in doing your budget, you need to make sure that it equals to 0. So in that case, you don't have anything else to spend monies on, and
Okay.
then yeah. So pretty much that's what it was all about. I only have to tighten up on 1 or 2 areas. I have my personal advisor already. So
Okay, very good. And where did you find a personal advisor? If you don't mind me asking.
at Family Guardian.
Okay, okay.
She's my insurance agent, but she also provides me with financial advice as well. So
Okay.
thank God I was listening to her, because I would not have survived during that pandemic if I wasn't listening to her.
Okay, so very good that you're disciplined. Very good. Very good. Okay, ladies, thank you so much for sharing. I hope that some of you had the opportunity to um, read um, chapter 2. It talks about tax evasion, and of course, the Bahamas was known as a tax haven for many, many years. And because we were a tax haven, we attracted many offshore accounts from foreigners. And so we had a very, very large um, amount of money coming into the country from other jurisdictions. Okay, and what it means as a tax haven is that we don't have taxes that other countries have, like income tax and sales tax and what have you. Now, this was back before that. Um, of course, we have social security taxes, but it's like NIB. But
NIB.
yeah, but like I said, our taxes range between 10 to 15% because we pay VAT. Now, if you pay duty, if you go and bring stuff into the country, it used to be very high, up to about 45%, but a lot of those have been reduced since we got VAT. But like I said, in countries like America and Switzerland and Spain, you can pay up to 35% of your salary to the government in taxes. And very rich people, high net worth persons, hate insurance and they hate paying taxes because they feel like the government, like our government always says the money going into consolidated fund, as if we don't have accountants that reconcile and tell us where every penny went, and so they always feel that the money is mismanaged, it's stolen. And you can see from the type of schools, public schools we have, the one public hospital that you have to sleep to for 3 days before you get served, the roads that always dig up and have potholes. So, and then the lack of customer service within the government entities. So for that reason, rich people say, oh no, government, they're thieves. We're not going to pay any money to the government. And so they go to other jurisdictions and they deposit their money because it's actually cheaper to put your money into a low tax jurisdiction like the Bahamas or a tax haven like the Bahamas, instead of paying 30% of your $10 million to your government each year. I could just leave my money in the Bahamas, not disclose it to the government, and I can pay $10,000 in fees or $3,400, $500 in just fees annually to an offshore bank. They will store my money and I will get interest. And so that's what's considered tax evasion. Okay, and so it was President Obama, and he's very popular, and he was a good president in my view, who came up with FACA, and FACA is Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. And what he said is, before I borrow more money and have to bow to the Chinese, because at that time, I think China is still the only country that have a lot of money because they don't live a lavish life. They live very frugally. They live on 20% and they save 80. And so for many years, they were the jurisdiction that could loan a lot of money to countries. And we saw that they were lending money left, right, and center, and they were overlending to countries like Guatemala and some African countries that could not pay, and then they acquired their ports. So could you imagine, now we're building that port, $192 million we borrow from China. If that doesn't make money, China can acquire that. And we get $15 from every tourist that comes in, and we estimate 7 million tourists that comes in by cruise ship to that port. We have the second largest port registry in the world. So all sorts of cruise ship fees and other tariffs, that are paid, China would just acquire all of that to get their money back. So that's what happened to several countries. And so Obama had said, before I bow to the Chinese, I'm going to fix my tax problem. And so he put into law that once you are American citizen or you have American indicia, meaning an American address, an American driver's license, he went as far as an American telephone number, you could possibly have ties to America. Institutions offshore must carry out due diligence and find out if you are liable to pay taxes to America. Okay, and that's called FACA. So the IRS spent $18 million to upgrade their systems, to hire staff, to put controls in place to make sure countries around the world that had American money in it or American customers in it paid Americans its taxes. And of course, they put the law in place and they said, if you don't report these taxes individually, if a customer says, well, no, I don't want you to report me, then the total American dollar that's being held in that institution, you must pay America 30%. So you could have a Swiss person with an American dollar account, and you could have $10 million worth of American, US accounts. America say they want 30%. Okay, so of course, people around the world said, oh no, you better report those Americans, right? And so they created a system. The competent authority is the Compliance Commission, who receives the tax information. There are two types of jurisdictions. Bahamas is a Model 1 jurisdiction. That means we send the information to our competent authority, which is the Compliance Commission, and then the Compliance Commission will go to the competent authority of Switzerland, the competent authority of Panama, the competent authority of Spain, the IRS, which we know is the competent authority for taxes in the United States, and then they send that information. And then there's a Model 2 jurisdiction where they have a system where they send the information directly to Spain, directly to the country without their government being involved. Okay, so Model 1 and Model 2 jurisdiction. And so there are rules for Model 1 and there are rules for Model 2. And so there's a little bit of a conflict when your head office is in Switzerland, because I worked with an institution where my head office was in Switzerland, and they kept telling me, sorry, that I reporting wrong, when in actuality I wasn't, because we are model 1 and they are model 2, and so the rules are slightly different. Okay, so Bahamas is a model 1 jurisdiction. Okay, and so that year, I think the IRS, like I said, they spent $18 million to put the system in place, and they came out with $200 billion in the first year. So that should tell you how many US citizens had their money in offshore jurisdictions around the world. So immediately when this law came out, I always worked in trust and private banking. Our private banking announced that they were going to close down because I think it was 60% American clients, and therefore, because these laws were coming into place, it was just cheaper to keep your money at home. And then the IRS even gave them a waiver. They said, you have 2 years to repatriate your money home, and we will fine you. But if you do not repatriate your money home in 2 years, I think this was in 2017, then we will, charge you to the fullest extent of the law. And that's what happened with one of my clients. Like I said, in 2020, he still did not repatriate. He still was lying and under the cover and doing all sorts of stuff. We got a subpoena and we said, listen, the bank is closing down. What would you like us to do? And they said, hold that money. And the last day before we say, we sending this money to central bank, they said, send us $6 million, give him 4. And that guy cried. Okay, so that was more than 50% of his money that he had worked hard for, that he had lost to the IRS because he was evading taxes. Okay, so that is FACA, US taxes. Because that was so popular, and America kept announcing how many money they collected in taxes, and they said, now we don't have to borrow from the Chinese, and our deficit is decreasing. What y'all think happened? The rest of the world say, oh, we could do the same thing that America did. So the OECD then created common reporting standards. So America alone is FACA and everybody else is CRS. Okay, we familiar with these terms, and we see FACA and CRS in our institutions. We know what reporting is all about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, y'all talk back to me, please. This is a discussion base. Come on. So y'all got to talk back to me and give me feedback. Okay, so for the most part, most of us are familiar with FACA and CRS. Okay, so just like America got their money, Switzerland then got their money, Spain got theirs, Panama got theirs. And so what we saw is in Switzerland, your colleague of mine said we had 250 private banks and trust companies. We now only have 50. Because so many people closed out their account and repatriated their money home because they saw that there was no way to work the system, we lost all our business. So companies closed down left, right, and center. And we saw that in the offshore world, in the Bahamas as well. It just didn't make sense to keep your money overseas because you still had to pay the tax to your country. Then you still had to pay the $10,000 for the fees to, the Royal Bank or not Wells Fargo, Julius Baer or whatever, Deltec Bank. You still had to pay their fees. So a lot of persons repatriated. Now, there's a whole big book, FACA and CRS, because, of course, who has their money in these offshore banks and was trying to defraud their government? Parliamentarians, they're the rich ones, right? And so they had all these secret accounts all around the world. And so, of course, there's a book called Loopholes in the Tax System, and this is how you get around it. Okay, and so very savvy sales persons, they read and they know how to avoid taxes and not evade taxes. Okay, and so
Ms. Ballard,
yes.
what is the benefit of having an offshore account now for US citizens? Is it that they can still hide their, like if they want to hide their funds from maybe a spouse?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
like that's basically the only benefit of it now, eh?
Yeah, or investments, because now CESRA is out and CESRA says you have to have business in the area. So that's another deterrent to making sure that you don't just have a offshore account to evade taxes, right? So immediately we saw a person's, apply for citizenship in the Bahamas or Thailand or in the UAE or in Cayman, because UAE and Cayman say they're non-reciprocal. We ain't sending no tax information and we ain't closing out these accounts. Okay, so you have an account in Cayman or the UAE, they say we ain't reporting to the world. So that should tell you that they are just as powerful as America, right?
So Cayman doesn't do FATCA.
They're non-reciprocal.
Okay.
They're not. You could send them information on their citizens, but they ain't sending you none on yours. Okay. Why are they allowed to do that? Tell me what's special about Cayman. I can't hear you, Indira. Your mic too far.
Because that's their number one industry.
No. That was our number two.
What is their dollar value? I can't remember.
No. They are they $1.50 to the 50 cents more than the US dollar.
50 cents more?
Yeah, so $1 US is $1.50 Cayman. $1 Caymanian dollar is $1.50 US, something like that. Vice one of them.
I know. I know it was a lot of banks there when I visited there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but we have a lot of banks, and
was it the value of is it the value of the lands or the population?
Let me tell you. Of course, the UK had to pretend with the Queen can't have a bad reputation, right? And so Cayman is still a British colony.
Oh yeah.
So it's Turks and Caicos.
Correct.
Right? So Turks and Caicos blacklisted completely, no laws in place, no central bank, nothing, and they still operate with a premier. And then Cayman is independent, however, they still British. So Turks and Caicos and Cayman is the British, two little bad countries where they do all their deals through, and so they are protected. But can the Bahamas do that? Can we try that?
No, we can't.
Okay, blacklisted immediately, right? Okay, and then the UAE, nobody fooling with the sheiks. The sheiks say we ain't doing that. You ain't costing us no business. They ain't doing it. Okay. So, and then Thailand is protected by China. Okay, so various jurisdictions, they are just say they non-reciprocal. So, and then the Bahamas doesn't have that tax, that income tax. And so therefore, persons showed up to the Bahamas and say, listen, I can pay the $750,000 and I want citizenship. Or they went to Thailand, or they went to the UAE, or they went to Cayman. Okay, and so that's one way to avoid rather than evade, because avoidance is legal. Evasion is illegal. Okay, and please know the difference between the two. Okay, big question on the exam, very easy to answer. Avoidance versus evasion. Okay, so evasion means flat out you lying to
failure to pay or deliberate underpayment of taxes.
Right. Evasion, avoidance means I'm very savvy. I know the laws in the country, and so I circumvent them. So a lot of companies, they open up these IBCs, and then they hire a manager, investment manager, and so managed accounts are not reportable. So you could be a U.S. citizen. You could open up an IBC in the Bahamas or in Cayman or BVI. You can appoint an investment manager, and he'll charge you $10,000 a year. And because you have that investment manager, his responsibility is to report you. However, there's no reporting required from investment managers. So that's the loophole right there. And that's how all the politicians protect themselves. But
so that is That is still could be done with accounts, and that's still under us then.
Yes, yes. So you do have a lot of accounts that are not reportable.
Wow.
Okay, because of this. But a lot of people don't know that. And then they think that I'm not going to open up a company, pay company fees each year, hire a manager. But when you have millions of dollars, that's actually cheaper to spend $20,000 a year than your company making $40 million and you paying 35% of your government, which will probably be 20 or $200,000 or $300,000. Okay, so that's how we survive. That's why some companies are, offshore companies are still open because of these loopholes in the law. Okay, and that's why I say it's very competitive in the offshore world. If you're not very knowledgeable and very savvy and can teach your customer how to avoid, never evade, then you don't have customers.
Okay.
Okay, so another example, because of course, when we answer these questions, we need an example. Okay, so all of us payment women that go to Miami to shop with me till we drop. The government says you could bring in $500 worth of stuff. When we go fill out that form, what do you see? Any behaving woman is going.
I mean, lion snake too. I never spend more than $500.
Okay, and all us should go to jail, right?
All
Right.
Who you working for? Who you working for?
But I just said.
And the customer officers know we lying, You think they know we lying?
Okay, so all us must go to jail for tax evasion. Correct?
Yep.
Stop it. You're paid to the country what is due. You're paid to see us what it sees us. So that
I say when I send it to the courier. That's the only time I pay. And when I coming back with them wheels rolling through the airport,
10 suitcase.
Never.
10 suitcase with buses open and I only spend $500.
300. I still on 300. I even forget it's 500. I still spend 300.
No, this is how you do it. Like on summer break, you take all the children on summer vacation. Right?
And you claim their own.
Right. So they ain't going back away no more for the year.
Well, that's avoidance. So very good in the
That's the legal way.
That's the legal way. You take all the children and you use all the children exemption.
I only travel in the summer.
But when I travel, if I buy more than what I supposed to pay customs for, I turn my clothes on the wrong side. The clothes I buy, I pay
evasion, Marika. Evasion.
What? I think
I could smell the newness, and you don't mix the dirty clothes with the clean clothes. The customer officers know that too.
They wash anyway. They get washed before they get wet, so they can have.
Okay, so you all know the difference, because you're gonna need an example, okay? Yep. And then the law allows you to stay for a certain amount of time. So we have the very famous singer Shakira. She has a house on Paradise Island. So she has Bahamian citizenship. And so when it was time to file her taxes, she politely said, well, I live in the Bahamas. Here's my citizenship. However, that same year, she was on tour all through Spain. And so the law allows you, it says, even though you may have residency and citizenship somewhere else, if you spend more than 183 days in my country, you are liable to pay taxes. And so they were able to use her tour dates and prove that she had stayed in Spain more than 183 days. And so they sued her for tax evasion and she lost the case. And even though she had that Bahamian residency, she had to pay the taxes to Spain. Wow. Okay, so it was double what she was supposed to pay. So you can Google that case and read that up and use that as an example. Another example of avoidance is you can get unassembled furniture. Assembled furniture is normally 45% duty. Unassembled furniture is 5%. Then energy efficient cars, energy efficient washer and dryer, refrigerators, are 5%. The regular ones are 25%. So that's avoidance. Okay? So a lot of people get it confused when they write it. Please use the correct examples with evasion versus avoidance. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good, good. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right, so of course it lists some types of taxes, value-added tax. We should all be familiar with it. Production of goods and provision of services. That's a tax imposed on that. Tariffs and excise tax, and make sure in the exam, because these normally are the multiple choice questions on important goods. Now we say duty, right? But the exam you say duty, you say tariffs or excise tax. So make sure you know. And Social Security, we should all be familiar. Social Security is in the states. That's what they call it. We call it NIV, right? Okay. Withholding tax is applied to certain types of income on interest, dividends, salary, where the payer deducts the tax at source from income of the payee. And so in many institutions, there's something called a qualified intermediary, which means that you collect the tax on behalf of the IRS and is considered under US law, Chapter 4 status. And what that means is every time you invest in the stock market, the US charges either 30 or 40%. And so your institution, if they're in the market on behalf of their customers, they then collect that 40%. And at the end of each year, they send that money on to the IRS. So most, like I say, offshore banks that have a securities arm collect that money. And if you are behind on, collecting that money, then you get into a lot of problems. Okay, we're gonna look at some forms and then I'm gonna explain more about that same withholding tax. So every security, you want one share of Google, you want one share ABM, you want one share gain, there's 40% going to the US if you're in the US market. And then if you're in the Euro market, they have their own taxes, okay? And then there's a wealth tax, and then there's an estate tax, okay? So we covered CRS, we covered FACA, where again, a person who is resident in a state is liable for the state taxes, and US citizens wherever they reside. And like I said, the only way you get out of that is if you did not spend that 183 days in that country. Okay, so normally it's where a person is domiciled, where they live and they spend the majority of their days. Okay, and so when you walk into the bank, you open up accounts. They do, of course, get all the KYC, and a part of the KYC is a CRS form for the rest of the world, and then a FACA form for US. Now, a lot of persons or institutions, I should say, they create their own FACA and CRS forms because these forms expire. And if you create your own form, all you have to do is copy and paste the OECD form and the IRS form and put your company's logo on it. People do that because you can put an expiry date of 10 years on that, okay? However, if you don't do that and you say, I'm going to use the OECD form or the US form, these forms expire every 3 years, okay? And so what happens is, once you open an account, it's very, very hard, at least in the offshore world, to get persons to come in and update their KYC once that expires, okay? And these forms expire every 3 years. So I have the form up right now. It's a W-Ben form. These are the US forms. And if you look in the corner right here, it says that this was revised in 2020, okay? For y'all that work in account opening or in accounts, y'all should go to your files and look and see which expiry date is on that. Most of them used to say 2/17. Okay, so this form has just been revised. It is only good for 3 years. Now, if your institution does not invest or nobody's in the market, then it's okay. However, if your institution is in the market and you're using an out-of-date form, if your client has not signed the revised form, then you could be fined, you could be charged and fined. Okay, so that's why institutions create a form and they put a 10-year expiry on it. A lot of persons think it's easy just to use the US form. Okay, but if you're using the US form and your company has a securities arm, please, that's a part of your due diligence. When this form expires, it can't be like your other forms with this account been open from 1999 and we never updated, or the passport expire and we ain't asking for a new passport, or we asked for it and we never got it. These forms, when the IRS says pay us our money every April, sometimes they ask you to upload the forms. If any of these forms are expired, you get a very large fine. Okay.
So it's okay for them to use their own made forms then?
Yes.
Rather than this one.
But like I said, you could copy and paste this and put your company's logo on it. You don't have to change any of the wording. Okay. But you would let a tax professional do it. You wouldn't do it on your own. Okay. And you could put a 10-year expiry. However, if you don't have your own form, most people just go online and use this and they don't even pay attention to the expiry date. But I was auditing a company where the IRS must have charged them $10,000 for each form that was expired, and they had like 25 expired forms.
Jesus.
Yes, yes.
So, Ms.
Okay.
Ballard, in a case like that, right? Let's say, for example, if a customer has an account open and everything on, well, the passport has expired or the application with the form you're speaking of. Let's say, for example, if the customer dies, the client dies, like what?
Nobody should be invested in the market if he did, unless he has a management agreement on file that somebody acts on his behalf. Okay. Because even a power of attorney stops at death.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have a power of attorney at death, it stops. Everything stops and the account should be blocked. But if you have a management agreement and your manager still is acting on your behalf outside of a power of attorney, then it's okay. Okay. Now these forms are at the back of your book. And some of them, not all of them, there are 3 forms and they're very powerful, always on the exam in the multiple choice section, and persons always get it confused. Okay, this first form is a WA, and these are all US forms. Okay, so even if you are a Bahamian citizen, you open an account for FAC and CRS purposes, everybody has to sign this form. And it's called a W-8 ban. And the W-8 ban is for foreign to the United States individuals. Okay, is that clear? Hello, are we there?
So
Yes, but
another form with
yeah,
WABENE. It's 2 forms then, is what you're saying.
Yes, it's 2 forms. Yeah. So, but we just on this one now.
Okay,
that's to make sure.
US,
we get to that one. So
the first form you're saying is for US citizens.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
This is for foreign individuals to the United States. So Bahamians should sign this, Canadians should sign this, people from Spain, Haiti, Jamaica should sign this form.
Okay.
The W-8 ban, okay? And part 1 talks about the identification of the beneficial owner. Part 2 talks about a tax treaty, because a lot of individuals, like how Shakira had citizenship in the Bahamas, and citizenship in Spain. Sometimes the countries have an agreement where you pay 15% to Spain and 15% to the Bahamas. But you know, of course, we don't have taxes. But if she was like, sorry,
Miss, but it's my little niece. I gotta continue now.
okay, yeah, just mute your mic. Just mute your mic. Yeah, so you have to fill out that and find out if they have any special conditions, or they may be a senior citizen, and so they may have a senior citizen rate. The taxes in the U.S. 35%, but because they are a senior, they only pay 25%, and so you put all of that in that section, and then they sign. Okay. In this section, as you can see, it asks the permanent residence, the city or town. It asks country of citizenship. Now, whilst I was at Royal, we had a customer that was in the market. We opened an account for him, and he said, I'm a Bahamian citizen. So he had provided a passport, I think, from Canada. So I said, can we have a copy of your, residency or your citizenship? So he said, sure, I'd bring it back for you. So there in the central bank requires some mandatory documents that you cannot open the account without. And then there are some non-mandatory documents that they permit you to get within 30 days. Of course, we overwhelmed and underpaid, and so we never follow up on these things, right? And back in those days, one person was opening, verifying, and approving. Okay, so it's good to have separation of duties so you don't get caught up into these types of issues. So I said, okay, so sure, we'll open the account. We opened the account, we gave him the 30 days, nobody followed up. 1 year later, we got a subpoena for him to show up in the US courts. He was charged with fraud. They sent a subpoena to, stop order to freeze his account, and they wanted somebody to come to the US to testify against him. So of course, immediately the account officer called him on the line and said, well, what did you do in the US? You have a Canadian passport and you are a Bahamian citizen. And he said, well, actually, he had applied for Bahamian citizenship, but it was denied because he was out on bail. And so that small followed up cost Royal Bank, I think we got a $25,000 fine for collusion for opening this account with the incorrect information and allowing him to trade in the US market. Okay, and luckily that was in 2007 or 2008. Today, that fine probably would have been $200,000 or $300,000. Okay, so with these forms, does anybody work with these forms, or this is completely unfamiliar?
It's unfamiliar to me.
Okay, because most of y'all work in the retail side, but even on the retail side for CRS and FACA, what are persons opening the accounts? What are they signing to open accounts?
We use more mostly the FACA form.
Okay, this is FACA.
No, I mean, we created our own, not
one. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you look at your form, it should have the same wording. It probably just looks different.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. So no matter where you are, once you open an account, you have to, this should be a part of your account opening package. Okay. Or unless you say we only do business for Bahamians, or we don't open for any other citizen other than a Bahamian. Okay, or for only Bahamian passport holders, something to that effect. Okay, so W-8 is for individuals that are foreign to the US. W-8 where is it? I got added over, but let's see. There you go. W-8 is for companies, and the E is for entities. So entities foreign to the US. So any company, all these IBCs and all these companies out of the BVI and out of Cayman, this is the form for companies. And so it asks you your Chapter 3 status, and it asks you your Chapter 4 status. In banks, a lot of times, customers do not have a tax lawyer, and they want you to fill this out on their behalf. Do not do it. Okay? A lot of them, they trying to evade taxes. So your company could be held liable for collusion, and it's happened many, many times. You have to tell them, we do not offer tax services. You have to go and hire a tax lawyer to make sure this is filled out properly, because each country has a different, have different laws. So you may have just filled this out for the somebody from France, and you say, oh, the same type of company, but that person is from Spain, and the laws could be different. So you want to ensure that they have a tax lawyer from their country that knows how to fill these out properly. Okay, because you could get into a lot of trouble. And like I say, when it comes to the IRS, they don't just slap you on the wrist any longer. Okay, so make sure you do not fill this out on their behalf, and you do not give any tax advice. Okay, that's the W-8 Benny. And then the last form is the W-9. This is for all US citizens. Okay, and so this is for US companies as well and citizens. Okay, so W-8, W-8 Benny, and W-9. Don't get confused. Okay.
Could you repeat that about the W-9 form again for me, please?
It's for all US citizens and entities. See, so you see individuals, corporations, partnerships, trusts, anybody US just signs a W-9. Okay, and a common problem is where we are so used to having non-US clients, we let everybody sign the W-8, and you get a fine for that as well. You see? The certification under penalties of perjury, I certify that all the information is correct. I am a US citizen and all of these stuff. So yeah, don't play around with this. It costs you a lot of millions, and a lot of persons have gone to jail. Okay, if you are not familiar, go get training. Okay, and a lot of companies, they just put the next person in position for FACA and CRS duties, or a lot of times this was put on the compliance, like when it first came out in 2017, and I said, this is operational. They say, well, Ms. Bullet, nobody else knows how to do it. I said, but I don't even know how to do it. They say, you could figure it out. And then I had to force to train somebody, I did it for like 3 years. And then I said, but I am operational and I'm compliance. And for 3 years, I did this before they finally hired some persons to take over. And then I literally had to sit with them so they wouldn't make so much errors. So don't think that you're in the compliance department and this don't have nothing to do with you. More than likely, this would be a function. And if you look in the newspaper, when they hire in compliance professionals, they say CRS and FACA. Okay, so have it on your radar. Okay, any questions? Are we good with the forms? You all there?
We're good. I like it.
Okay, let's get some feedback, because you're just very, very quiet. Daniqua, give me some feedback, please. You saying something, Demetria?
No, I was just gonna ask you, because I didn't get to share my Toastmasters event class. I could do it after when we're done.
Yeah, you can do it after.
Okay.
Yeah, Daniqua?
Hi.
Hi, give some feedback, please.
In reference to the forms?
The forms, FACA, CRS.
Well, I'm glad you clarified the forms, because when I was reading over, I thought the WBN was for individuals as well. And so I'm glad you made the distinction between the two, because I did not realize that it was two different forms.
Okay, yeah. That E on the end is for entity. So if you already always
I made
remember
note of that
E.
in my notes. Yeah, because that would play a major factor in knowing the difference between the two.
Right. Right.
And then I actually have, I guess, a question as it relates to the CRS. I see it says it's an automatic exchange of information regarding financial accounts on a global level. So everyone has to participate in this, or is this just for countries that want to participate in this?
Okay, so each
I
year,
see it's the purpose for combating the tax evasion.
Right. So each year, a list is sent out of the countries that are participating. Okay. And it's in their best interest, because if they don't, we would already signed T's with all these countries. And so if they do not want the information, then they just don't collect taxes from their citizens, which wouldn't make sense, right? So in 2017 was when it started with America with FATCA. And after everybody saw that, of course, they jumped on board. And so Switzerland, like I said, the US spent $18 million to get their Ministry of Finance up to date to be able to collect this information, their IRS. So we saw a big country like Switzerland, who was always also a tax haven. We never reported on Switzerland till 2020. So 3 years of them trying to clean up, trying to get their system in place to be able to collect, and they probably just didn't have the money, because I'm sure it cost them probably half of what America paid to be able to collect this information. See, for us, Bahamas, we only had to send this information, which meant we had to pay for the system to exchange the information. We had to hire people in the compliance commission, and then we had to hire inspectors to make sure that it was being done. So this is the site, and this is managed by the compliance commission. And let's see, this is the list for 2020, 21. So each July, they send out this list of countries that want their tax information sent based on their citizens. So there are 65 countries that say, send us this information, because we have to collect this money from our citizens. Now, you see the Russian Federation with all the sanctions and stuff like that. So we perhaps sent all the information except to Russia this year, because Russia was sanctioned. And in countries, and even look at China, in countries like the IRS hits you hard, they just take your money. But in some of these communist countries, you defraud the government. In Russia, most of the people work for the government. And so Russia says, even the person who sweeps the floor is considered a pet, right? And so therefore, you have to send this in, you're working for the government and you don't want to pay the government taxes, they may kill you, So you have to you have to send the information, but you want to be very, very careful about sending it. And it's not easy. You have to yes?
Ms. Vaughn, I have a question. So, okay, Russia's under sanction currently, right?
Yes.
And this list is updated every, you said, year?
Yes, every year.
So, let's say next year, the list is updated. Would Russia automatically be added to it, or would they have to give permission first, seeing as though they're currently under sanction?
Yeah, they would give permission. Yeah, they would give permission. The regulators will give permission first. Because remember now, all the Russian assets are frozen.
Right.
And they say we have $4 billion of Russian assets.
Okay.
So it's perhaps they may say report it. However, remember we are a Model 1 jurisdiction where we send our information to the Compliance Commission. So the Compliance Commission may still say send it, and they will not release it to Russia. However, for the countries like Switzerland who have the direct link, they probably have a code to get into the Russian system, into the Swiss system, into the US system, like that. You see what I mean? And so could you imagine? You know, they probably had to put out swifter rules to say nobody is to share that information with Russia because they are sanctioned.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, you're welcome. All right, so again, just so you have a visual, and like they like to put this, like I say, on compliance, but in January, what I have to do is I do my due diligence. And what I do is I check to make sure my forms are not expired. And if they are, then I literally, and of course you all know that if these people, these are high net worth individuals, they don't want their accounts blocked. But I literally have to say, listen, we can get a $10 million fine if this person is in the market. So you have to get an updated form signed. When the form signed, luckily it was 3 years, you know. So if we had a form from everybody had to sign their forms last year. They say, oh, it's a pandemic, we can't get no forms. So it was, you know, all the stories with due diligence, right? And then a lot of countries, their laws had changed. So persons who would have, like Panama and Switzerland, they didn't have their systems in place to collect information till 2020. So when they signed the forms, everybody from Panama who had signed the forms in 2018 needed to sign a new form in 2020. It's crazy. So you have to carry out the due diligence. Persons' passports had expired. And then with the trust company, you only report them if they got a distribution. So some of those trust accounts have like 10 beneficiaries on it. So imagine when 10 beneficiaries get a distribution, it's crazy, you know, and so you have to run those people down. So you have to start that process in January because customers simply don't respond. And sales persons, they don't want to lose any business, so they don't want you to block their accounts. And so when the July comes, you report them. You don't have time to do customer service. You don't have time. If anything is out of order and the US tells you, put this person down as a non-reciprocal person, they're not responding, or a recalcitrant person, and we are going to go after them. So imagine you reporting your customer and the IRS coming after them. You definitely lose that business because they might go to jail, right? So you don't want to report anybody, and so you run them down for the due diligence. Yes.
Has any company been put in a situation where, because they're unable to get a client to sign relevant forms, that they have to travel to get to these people so they could show up and get these people to sign these forms?
Oh, of course. Listen to me. In wealth management, to open an account with us is $250,000. This was Royal Bank, and you had to have a network of $5 million. Nobody comes into the bank. Okay, these people to say, come play tennis with them, come on their yacht, meet them in Miami, come to Switzerland. That's all of the salespeople is do. They constantly on the road. They don't sit in the office. Oh, I'll be in Canada for a day. Can you meet me there? And they say it so casually, like it's no big deal. But of course, we debit their account, like the bank will pay, and then later on, at the end of the year, when we take fees, we'll take the fees for whatever travel.
All expenses and whatnot.
Yeah, all the expense, right. Okay. Yeah, so they don't come to the bank. They don't stand on the line. You go and meet them. If it's for 1 hour, I have 1 hour while I'm in New York, you go in and meet them. In fact, we had a client from Texas, and he had a condo in Freeport, and we used to just send a check in the mail to Cable Bahamas to pay his cable bill. And Cable Bahamas say they didn't get the check and they turned his cable off. But we had to fly there to apologize, buy him flowers, sit and talk to him for 2 hours. Luckily, it was only the Freeport, to calm him down and explain to him why when he reached home, his cable was off. Because he said, I'm not speaking to anybody on the phone. I want my cable on now. I'll expect you in an hour. slammed down the phone. And he had oil fields and horses and all sorts of stuff. And then he, you know, rich, like I say, rich people, they don't like insurances. He had a lot of horses. He had a horse called Van Royal. It was a racehorse. It was worth $5 million. The insurance on Van Royal was $220,000. And I said, are you going to pay the $220,000 this year for the horse insurance? He said, no, the insurance is some thieves. I'm not going to pay it. I said, okay, are you sure? I'll check back in a month. He said, no, don't check back. I'm not paying it. I paid it for 5 years. My horse is healthy. In 6 months, that horse was dead. A $5 million horse. They had to fly to Texas to the horse funeral because he wouldn't stop crying. Okay, but that's what
He's
you
crying for the horse, or he's crying for the money.
Man, he was crying for the money. He was a millionaire who was, I talk about cheap as hell. We had his will, and he was like 84, and he had some young children. They probably was in his 30s, so that means he would have had them, and he was 50 something, and he left everything to them, but they could get it at 65 when they retired. Because he said he didn't want them to think they would be living off his money and not finish college and depend on him. So he left them everything at retirement. Yeah, crazy rich people. Crazy. I have a million stories. Okay, so that's wealth management.
Okay.
Okay. All
Miss
right.
Paulette,
So yes.
I have a question, but it ain't really. It's in regards to the offshore bank with the tax evasion. So, say for instance, a foreigner comes to the Bahamas and invests, well, open up an account, and it is later found out from his country his country, that he was evading tax basically. He would be fine, right?
Yeah, so that was my first story
So
because
the company, what I want to clear up, what would happen to the company?
okay, so that's my real life story that I told you on my customer who had $10 million. We give you a chance. You are to disclose each year. I think America, they do taxes every March, and they get a
every
refund.
April 15th.
Okay, yeah. So that's the same time we used to qualified intermediary posting. So and they get a refund, right? And so here it is. He put in his taxes and he say he had $500,000 and he had 10 million. So he did a report and we did a report. And so when the IRS saw that he had 10 million, they sent us a subpoena and they say, please send us a statement. And they saw that he had evaded taxes, that he had this 10 million for like 6 years. They charge him $1 million a year. And they rushed this case because our bank was closing down in the pandemic. And so on the last day before we sent that money to the central bank, they say send them 6 million and give him 4. He cried.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's no, you have to disclose each year when you do your tax, you have to disclose or they get you out of. You should have just paid the 30%.
So the company, the bank itself here, they wouldn't be fine in no way?
No, because we disclosed. They found out from us.
No, but
if we had lied.
That's what I'm saying. If we hide it.
Okay.
So bank,
yeah, if we hide it, then we are liable. But no bank will hide it. Why would we hide it for the customer? Like I said, there is a book out that says loopholes in the CRS and FACA system. And then there's another book that says CRS and FACA for dummies. Each one of these are like 300 pages, okay? And if you want to be a very savvy salesperson and have a lot of clients, you sit down and you read that entire book. And you invest there, you advise your customers how to avoid. And it's a very thin line, okay? And you tell them, avoidance is gonna cost you about $30,000. If you have to pay this tax to America each year, this will cost you 300,000 to 400,000 a year, and it's going to increase because your company making money each year, right? So they go, let me take the 30,000, and I want you to ensure that I am avoiding, not evading.
Okay.
And it has worked. Okay, that's why the customer due diligence is very important. Like in a lot of institutions, we have so many outstanding. One institution I wrote up, they had 15,000 deficient KYC documents. Okay, and they was in the market. I say, you're about to, and just like I say, y'all go close down or y'all go to jail. And within 3 years, they was closed down. 15,000 deficient accounts.
Wow.
Now, each account had, let's say, about 80 something documents on it. So 3 people on the account, that's 3 passports, power of attorneys, CRS and FACA forms for each person, you know. The account opening form was 45 pages. And throughout at 15,000, they probably had like 3,000 accounts. So yeah, now I say y'all are close now because there's no way, too many deficiencies.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you work in an institution with a lot of deficiencies and a lot of expired documents and there's no department working on that, that's a red flag. You should be concerned. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then one institution, they didn't even ask the right questions on their account opening documentation. Okay. And so you want to go to your institutions and look at the bottom of your forms and see what version date on it. That same institution had version 2003 and it was 2019. So that means their forms had not been updated since 2003. And the laws done changed like 5 times since. Okay, all of these are red flags. You want to look at your policy and procedure and see if there's an expiry date. If any policy and procedure doesn't have a review date before or after 218, red flag. Because all the laws changed in 218.
Boy, I sound like a lot of people going to jail.
What?
Yeah, but make sure it ain't you. Only poor people is going to jail and jail. Make sure it ain't you. So this is why I'm saying go and check.
I'll be there in day 2.
Sorry?
I'll die in day 2.
Okay, so rebuke all that you and diet. You go into your institution and you check in to make sure your forms are updated.
I can't take this lockdown. I can't take being locked down.
Okay, good. So go and check and make sure any your responsibilities, every function that you carry out is on your job description, and you have a policy to go with each function. Okay, and you know which policy to go to, because you can only mitigate risks. You can put controls in place to protect yourself against risk. You cannot eliminate it. Okay, these hackers and scammers are very smart. When they infiltrate their institution, the only way you don't go to jail is you could speak knowledgeably too. This is our policy. This is what it states. This is what I did. I was not negligent. This is what the regulator's policy says. Yes, there is a gap in our policy. I sent this email 2 years ago to my manager to have the policy updated. They did not update it. And have your email at your record, and so you don't go to jail.
Okay. Yeah, you have to, and banking, you have to have documentation down back, because that's the only thing could save you.
Yes, or negligence, and you go to jail. Okay, and like I said, we are being internationally watched. They say, does the Bahamas have law-abiding citizens? Okay, because before you just went to jail for fraud or for theft. Now it's fraud and money laundering, theft and money laundering, drug dealing and money laundering. And I think the Attorney General had announced that, okay, 86 persons had been charged with money laundering. They say from 2000, okay? And look, you see all the politicians brought before the court, not one. Everyone got off. Whether they
only, why, see, they fooled with him, Miss Bullet, they fooled with Adrian Gibson now. You see that?
Yeah, but he'll probably get free too. Okay, just wasting the people time. Look all that money we pay back to Shane Gibson. And Shane had several rodeos. And when you win on a technicality, he won on a technicality. There's no repay. You won innocent. You didn't win because you were proven innocent. You won on a technicality because somebody didn't do their job.
That's all.
And we paying you 250,000. That's a mockery. That's a mockery of the people's purse. Come on. But anyway, tax evasion, tax avoidance, due diligence. Jamal, I haven't heard from you. Give me some feedback, please.
Oh, we have a male in the class. I thought it was only females in our class.
Yeah, we Jamal here, but Jamal.
What? Jamal, you have to speak up now. These ladies are gonna dominate you. You have to speak up. And sleeping in.
Hey, you want me marking marks and okay.
Okay.
Let's see who else we haven't heard from today. You're very, you're scaring me. This class too quiet now. Miss Bullet almost fall asleep.
He said his mic isn't working.
He said his thing isn't there. He said he's trying to fix his mic.
Okay,
he said he's at work.
All right. You get a little excuse there. Lene Charlton. Oh, Lene. Oh, why I don't know you. No, Lene ain't talking about me. Marika. These people here, you're just sign in and walk away.
People do that, Miss Buller.
But you gotta at least say 5 cents before you walk away.
Exactly. Exactly. So you know, if I don't say that, you know something wrong.
You know, come on, at least try to trick me.
Exactly.
I'm here. From COVID, but I'm here.
It's just that the internet keep dropping. Like
okay. All right. Okay, Lene.
Yes, well, did you see Jamal's message? He says that his mic isn't working and he's at work.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So we give him a little excuse. Next week, make sure your mic works, Jamal.
He's at work.
But you can't be at work every class.
I'm joking.
I'm sorry, you can't be every class if you like trying to give you points. Lene, why I don't know you? My daughter named Lene. Why I don't know you?
Your daughter named Lene?
Yeah, so I surprised I see this Lene in here. I said, what's going on?
I don't
why I don't
know
you, Lene?
I don't know. I was here on intro, but this week I have COVID, so that's why I'm a little tired.
All right then. All right, feel better then. All right.
Thank you so
feel
much.
Better. I hopefully next I give you 2 weeks and then we can talk.
No, I'll make sure to be very vocal next class.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Good. All right. So who else wants to give me? I want to make sure that y'all understand this now before we move on. Is this clear? We see the forms. We understand FACA. We understand CRS, and we understand the importance of paying taxes to the country as a major source of income. Okay, and we understand even though we don't have the income tax or this domicile tax that we still have to report. It's a big job that we have to report every July. The portal only is open for 1 month. And so you literally have to stop everything you're doing to put this information into the portal. You have 1 month. And that's why I say, you may think that, oh, this don't have anything to do with me, but as a compliance officer, I've done it for 3 years. And it was hard. I had to fight. You'll hire somebody to do this yet? You'll hire somebody. I ain't gonna be here to train them. You better hire somebody, And so even after they hired entry-level persons who did not know what to do. They did not catch on. It was crazy. But what is supposed to happen is that compliance is supposed to ensure that when that portal is open, you bring me proof that you uploaded to the portal, that it was checked and verified, and so that the company doesn't get a fine. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, guys, so we can stop right there. And next week, we are going to go on to sanctions. So I'd like you please to come prepared and please to talk back to me. I need more conversation and more participation. I can start taking off points. It's big war going on in Russia. So
how many points I got so far? Let me check.
It's 10 classes.
I try to get my points early in the game.
Someone tell her to mute on my please.
Yeah, you get 1 point each class. So this only the second class in zero.
So I only as far as 2?
Yeah, but yes, some people don't have one yet. You're doing good.
Okay.
You're doing good for the second class. You have full points. So good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I really want y'all to read up on Russia and tell me how you know, the effects of these sanctions. I doubt it. If none of you work in offshore, of course, none of you have Russian accounts, but you may have a colleague that works in offshore. And so try to get some information on what's happening. We were waiting in my other class when for Bahamas, you know, they were a little wishy-washy in terms of sanctioning them, and they finally did. So I think I have the correspondence of when it came out. It came out on a Sunday afternoon. So if you wasn't paying attention, and we was looking for it every day. The regulator sent it on a Sunday afternoon saying we blacklist Russia. Okay, so read the chapter and then do some research and come ready to you know, have a provocative discussion. Are we looking at the classwork?
Yes. I'm looking at, I'm carrying towards that essay now. I procrastinate. I won't say I procrastinate this week. It's just that this week was a funny week. And I just been having headaches, which I don't have headaches. So I know there's something wrong. So
okay,
I have
to go do your annual and check it out. Don't take it lightly. So much things happening. Your sign up for NHS.
I did that. It's only one aspect I didn't do. So I think I have to check that one out. But I did everything else besides one thing. So I got to check that out.
Okay, but like I say, don't fall behind too far. Make sure you see the classwork and you come asking questions to make sure you know how to answer those questions. We went in depth last week about questions 1 and 2. And so chapter 2's questions are fairly straightforward, but make sure you keep an eye on them. A double weekend coming up next weekend, so you'll know you all ain't gonna do nothing next week. So please try to get some stuff in this week before the weekend starts, okay?
No, I stay in here, so I have to do some work.
You're staying here, okay.
I can't move.
Okay.
Long Island calling me, but I said to them no.
Okay, but you all have a productive week, and like I say, pay attention to the dates. The time may seem long, but it's too much information to, you know, to leave it for all at once. So try keep abreast as we go along. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Miss Bullard.
Yes.
Please don't forget me with my Toastmasters class, please, because I need to gain as much points as I can get.
You're right, girl. I don't forget. You're right. Go right ahead.
Okay, so
I was ready to start my weekend. Go ahead.
I need something right now.
The Toastmasters, I got into, well, I joined the Toastmasters Dynamic Persuaders, club number 12007778. That was, it went in session on Thursday at 6:30. The topic was living your vision. The speaker was Tyrone Burrows, who's the president, and the chairperson was Wayne Johnson. They spoke about upcoming business, their business news was in regards to introducing a gift certificate store. And they were talking about the upcoming election, 2023 election, and the nominees, which will be done for July 1st. We also, we went in a moment of silence to a fellow Toastmasters wife who was laid to rest also. Now moving on to the, talking about the topic, living your vision. It entails where having to go through the process in order to accomplish that vision or that goal. So also, the word of today was tatterdemalion. I don't know if you're familiar with that word.
Not at all.
Okay.
Where do they find these words?
Yeah. It is an adjective and it means rugged, unkempt, or dilapidated.
Oh,
Half of the million.
Yeah.
Jesus Lord.
I hurt my mouth just to say it.
I seriously make it cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we they spoke about the difference between dreams and vision, which is kind of the dream is more like you seeing it, or it tells a possibility or possibilities of it, happening. And vision is the process to reality. And then we just spoke about how most of us are not living our dreams because of fear, doubt, and disbelief. And which is true. I must say I enjoyed that group. I enjoyed it better than the last time, I can be honest, with the other group. And I told them I'm looking forward with I'm joining the group. It was very, very, very informative and they're very welcoming.
Okay, so very good, Demetria, and I'm glad that you found it beneficial. And I just want to add this my own personal experience with vision. The Bible says where there's no vision, the people perish. And
Yes.
I kept hearing Steve Harvey say, write the vision, make it plain. And so I googled the verse, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I started to write my vision down. I always had a bit every January, you say, New Year's resolution or what have you, but I always kept it in my head. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I actually wrote it down. And then I added it to my phone because I keep losing the paper. So I said, let me put it in my phone and put a reminder. And every month that would pop up on my phone. I talk about I would have been anywhere and it would pop up and I said, oh, I do this, oh, I do that, or whatever. And
Right.
I would waste the whole year. But when September, October come, like it would give me an anxiety, and I would do everything possible to try and accomplish some of them. And almost every goal I wrote on those, wrote in my phone, I accomplished. And when I didn't accomplish it, I just put it over to the next year. And that
That's all.
gave me more anxiety. So the Bible says, write it down, make it plain. Though it tarry, means though it may take long, it will come to pass. And it was, listen, it started off as a washer and dryer. My washer and dryer had broken down and I was going to wash and that was killing me.
Oh Lord.
And I put that, that was in July, I put that down as I have to get a new washer and dryer. And by September I had it, okay?
Wow.
And then it turned into, I wanted to invest in the company. I had no money to invest in the company. And I went online to the Small Business Development Center and I applied for a loan. And
you got
not a loan, I got a grant, sorry.
Right.
And I got that. Best investment I made. I made the most money I make out of that investment. I didn't get $1. I didn't put $1 into it.
That's
okay. And then I needed a truck. Okay, I put that down. And by November of I think 2020, it was a pandemic, and my office was closing down. And I said I need a truck. And I kept popping up. When I got my final payment and Christmas bonus, I got my truck. Okay, and that's how it works. So don't say, oh, I can put it in my head and I gotta do this and I get you don't ever remember and you just get so confuddled. So it worked for me, and I think if y'all are not writing it down, write it down and set a reminder, and y'all will see a difference.
Yes, Miss Lynette, that's an excellent. Go ahead, yeah, that is an excellent idea because I wrote my vision down on a piece of paper. You're so right. Ask me where a piece of paper
is. Yeah. I keep losing it too.
Exactly. So now that you say put it in the cell phone, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I wrote it on January 23rd because I was the end of the month was coming. I said, look, I wish it January almost gone. And so every 23rd of the month that pops up on my phone, no matter where I am. And I said, oh, I started to beat myself up. You have to do this, accomplish something, do something. I even had to put my reading the Bible on that. I read the entire Bible. That's how bad it was. Like, you always just forget my devotion. I say, Lord, every day you wake up, you rush it, you forget devotion. But
that's right.
That popping up now, and so I just have to read 10 chapters one time, but I get through it. Yeah, so y'all try it, and I hope it works for you. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, guys. So y'all have a productive weekend. Enjoy yourself. Take some time to unwind and relax and feel good, and then get into chapter 3. Okay.
That's
so have a great week.
Good night.
All right. Good night.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.